Hello my friends, Paul here in the RoJoBe Music Workshop, and welcome to part 5 of the Japanese Sanshin Headstock or 10 rebuild. Okay, so I have to apologise for the abrupt ending of episode 4. I thought I'd got past this. The problem was I hadn't checked how much data I had on the SD card, and there was quite a lot. So while I was recording, the SD card filled up and so obviously the camera stopped. A little bit annoying. I should be past all this by now, but there it is. I mean, even though my previous cameras had 32 gig SD cards, 32 gig, this camera has a 64 gig SD card, so essentially that should mean, you know, twice as much storage space. However, when the camera stores the video, the MP4 file on the SD card, it also installs another file. I'm not sure what it is, but something else to do with the video. It's not an MP4, so it's got the MP4 file and another file for every video, and I didn't realize how much space they were taking up, so that was the problem. So I've got to be, you know, vigilant with keeping the SD card not full. So I was in that episode drilling the holes to fit the tuning pegs, and it was going okay. You know, I got the job done in the end. You know, because the SD card filled up and the camera stopped, I was halfway through the job. You'd seen what I was doing, you know, drilling the holes and reaming them out. Well, that's all finished now. It didn't go quite as well as I would have hoped. You know, rather than having the angle of two of them sort of like that, they're quite a bit closer together than I wanted. It is what it is. You know, I can't really redo it. I mean, I could by filling the holes with wood and starting all over again, but it's close enough. Honestly, it's not perfect, but it's good enough. I will show you that later, what it looks like with the pegs in, but at the moment I've got the neck over there set up, ready to laser engrave my logo on the headstock. I didn't show setting that up because it takes a little bit of time, it's a bit fiddly, but it's all set up, ready to go now. And I've got I'm using my little 3-watt machine, which is ideal for these jobs. So I've got the software on my tablet. So let me just zoom all the way in there where you can get my head out of the way. So you can't really see it, it's on the wrong level, but it's the headstock is about there. And the machine itself is in the way, but you know, it's set up, ready to go. I'm just going to check the settings before I start it. So let me just go back and back and back and back. Okay, so first of all I want to choose my logo from all of my pictures, etc. So I've got the logo there, and okay, go to the next step. Skip that one. So the next step is setting up the size. So I want the width at 40 millimeters, and you can see that's expanded the whole thing. So now we've got here for, what does that say? Regional targeting, just to see it's in the right position. Which it is. Okay, so I can stop that. Then go to the next step again. And I set the settings for power and speed. So I've got the power at 100%. The speed is currently on 90%. I'm going to take that down to 80 and start. So it's uploading the file now onto the machine, and there we go. So I'm going to let that do its thing. It only takes a few minutes. Yeah, it just literally just takes about 5 minutes or so on that machine. It's already at 7% progress, and as I said, when that's finished, I'm going to show you how the tuning pegs fit. Like I said, it wasn't a perfect result, but it's good enough. It's about the same as the shamisen. The angle between the sort of the first and the third. You don't want them straight, you want them kind of like that. Well, they've kind of ended up, the top one is almost straight, but the bottom one does angle out a bit. Like I said, it's not perfect. It's good enough. Let me just see how that engraving's doing. Amazing. Yeah. I should have left the speed at 90% really, because it's burning quite a bit, but it'll be fine. I've done these quite a few times, and it does depend on the wood that you're engraving into, and I hadn't really taken into consideration that I was engraving through like microns thick veneer, but it'll be fine. It'll turn out just fine. So this is the reason why I didn't coat the whole headstock in boiled linseed oil yet, because if I'd done that before the laser engraving, the oil would have scorched and made a bit of a mess of the engraving. So I'm doing the laser engraving first, and that's even before doing the final sanding of the headstock. Once it's finished engraving, I'll just check it over and then do the final sanding, because the engraving itself will need a little sanding. It always scorches around the edges a bit with this veneer and some of the cheaper wood. It's kind of unavoidable. Well, that's not true. If you spend ages doing the setup, then you can, but you have to have several trial runs, and I haven't got time for that. I mean, I have done these headstock engravings quite a few times, so I kind of know what settings I should use. Oh, I should have used the smoke extractor as well. Yeah, I'm not having a good day today, to be honest. So for me, it's the same day as drilling the holes and reaming them for the tuning pegs. That didn't go 100% according to plan. It's good enough, but I've had some other issues today as well. I mean, the SD card filling up as well, and a few other bits and pieces. Overall it's been not a great day. But I'm almost at the end of this job now, so once the laser engraving is finished, if that's all fine, it's basically final sanding, and then oiling, and then putting the thing back together. So it's almost finished now, thankfully. This job has been a bit of a ball ache. It's been probably a couple of weeks or so. Yeah, probably 2 weeks I've been on this job, and I've had enough of it. I really hope that this time it solves the problem and I don't have to do this again, because I don't want to have to do this again. And if for any reason, if it does fail again, I'm probably going to completely replace the headstock, because I think the problem is, and this is the shamisen, but it is basically the same. Dimensions on this are slightly bigger, so even the headstock itself is slightly bigger. But you can see with the side walls of this peg box, or what was it, Tingen, I think it was for this instrument. You know, you can see even on that side where they're spaced more apart, there's just not much wood between the pegs, and this side they're even closer. You know, there's just not much material between them, and the thickness of this material itself, it's marginal. You know, I mean, if I knock this one over, this one will probably explode as well. So if the repair for whatever reason doesn't work on this stanchion, it should do, but if it doesn't, I'm going to bite the bullet and completely make a new headstock, because it might be easier in the long run. It's quite a lot of work, but you know, I could make the whole thing bigger, thicker, chunkier, because you know, I've got the headstocks joined here on a 45-degree angle, which is probably not enough really, but it works. So you know, this thing isn't all one piece. The neck is all one piece right the way through to this. That's all one piece, but I made the headstock with a separate piece of wood. I mean, I glued it all together first and then shaped everything, and it did turn out great. So you know, if that does fail, and I'm hoping it doesn't, but if it does fail again, I'm just going to make a new headstock, because in the long run, even though it's a lot of work, it's actually easier in some ways, because you know, I can literally start from scratch from a big block of wood and build the whole thing slightly thicker and wider and, you know, deeper and all the rest of it. But I'm hoping I won't have to do that. It should be okay. You know, it was last time. The only reason it became a problem is because I knocked it over onto the floor. Well, any instrument you do that to is going to get damaged, obviously. But you know, instruments like this that are quite narrow and thin, they are more fragile than some other instruments. You know, if you did the same thing to a violin or viola or something like that, you probably have the same problem, because they're built, you know, in kind of the same way, where all of this here is you know, marginal. You've got to keep the components of instruments as thin as possible, for, you know, mostly for sound, resonance, volume, you know, everything else. So you know, making instruments isn't the easiest thing in the world. There are a lot of things to take into consideration, and obviously the most important part of any musical instrument is how it sounds. And you can only get that right if you use the right materials in the right dimensions and everything else. And basically, thinner is better, but obviously weaker. And that's the compromise you have when building things to, you know, very, very tight tolerances. You obviously lose strength, but you know, musical instruments are not supposed to be strong. They're not built for strength, they're built for sound, and they've got to be looked after, and knocking them over on the floor is not the way to look after them. So just bear that in mind. You know, even guitars, you know, I've seen it so many times where a guitar is literally just fallen over, you know, standing on the floor, and it just falls over sideways or backwards or forwards, and it completely destroys the headstock, sometimes snaps the neck clean in half. You know, they're built to very high, is it high tolerances or low tolerances? You know, so they're right on the edge of breaking if they get any kind of strain anywhere. So these things happen. But you know, like I said, hopefully it will be fine this time. It should be, because I've made these thicker, so it should be fine this time. And like I said, if not, I'll just completely rebuild a new headstock from a solid block of wood, and you know, just do everything slightly thicker, wider and deeper, only by, you know, a couple of millimeters each way, and that will make quite a bit of difference. I'm hoping I won't have to. I shouldn't have to, but we will see. Right, I'm just going to check on that engraving again. Oh yeah, that's going really well. Yeah, that's actually taken longer than I thought. It's now at 66%, so it's 2/3 done. It's taken a bit longer than I remember it being before. I thought it was like 5 minutes. It must be about 15 minutes, I guess. How far are we into this video? Yeah, 15 minutes. So, yeah, I mean, you know, we're building instruments to sound good does not mean they are strong. So, you know, it's like I said, if you knock over any instrument, it's going to get damaged. And I've done it more than once, so that's how I know. I try not to do it too often if I can help it, because, you know, it costs me time and money. I mean, like I said, I've not been working on this instrument every day, but probably most days for the past couple of weeks. And you know, technically it's not a difficult job really. It's just that you know, you've got to get everything absolutely perfect measurements wise and everything else. Is that finished? That's finished. Okay, cool. Okay, all right, let's take a close look at this. Oh yeah, perfect. So that's come up really, really nice, which is excellent. I'm glad something's gone right today. Yeah, I'm really happy with that. That's nice and dark, so it's very, very well contrast. But what I will do before I put the oil on that, so let me just bring the camera back round here now. And down. Yeah, so what I will do before putting the oil on that, I'm just going to get a brush and brush this out to get out the loose soot. Yeah, it's cool enough. I've got some little brushes here somewhere. Okay, so I've got various little brushes, like toothbrushes and little brass brushes and steel ones. I'm going to start with a stiff nylon brush at first. So I've got this little one here. I'm going to start with that first so that, you know, it's not too harsh. That's probably the one I need to use. Yeah. So I just brushed out the loose soot so that we're not trying to oil straight over that. Okay, that'll be fine. So that's all I needed, was just a little stiff nylon brush. Even that was quite strong actually. I've got some cloth here somewhere. Give it a wipe. Preferably in a place where you can see what I'm doing. Okay, yeah, I'm really happy with that. So, I'm going to have to put the air condition back on in a minute because it's getting a bit warm. But I try not to use it too much because it's very noisy. It's actually more noisy on the video than it is in real life, as it were. Right, okay, so continue on with the sanding. I'm going to start with some 800 grit. It doesn't need anything too coarse anymore, so I've done most of that. So it's just most of the rough edges are gone. I'm just, you know, giving it a light sanding prior to the oiling. And incidentally, I don't want to get too much or any oil in the holes for the tuning pegs, because then you'll lose friction and they won't work. I mean, I was thinking originally I was going to oil this before drilling the holes, so that I didn't get oil in the holes, but then I thought, well, no, I can't really, for a couple of reasons. First of all, the engraving. I don't want to engrave over the oil because it scorches and stinks and makes a mess. So, you know, the oiling is going to be the last stage, and that's reminded me actually, I've still got to glue the nut back in, and I'll do that before the oiling as well. otherwise the glue won't stick. But I'll give it all a good sanding first. As I said, I'm using 800 grit at the moment, and I'll probably then go to about 1500 and that should be fine. Okay. So, like I said, we're almost at the end of this now. Actually, when I finish this sanding, I forgot I was going to show you the pegs fitted in. So I shall do that in a minute. I'll just do the sanding with this 800 first, and then I'll show you the pegs in their holes. Okay, just the back to do with the 800. Okay, so looks and feels really nice. Just a bit of white. Okay, so if I put the pegs in, and I've got them numbered, I've got the numbers on the end of them in pencil, because they are all slightly different. That's number 3. So 3 is the top one. Then we've got number 1, which is the bottom one. And then number 2 is the middle one. So that's all the pegs in, and as you can see, we don't really have that taper here like I wanted. It's not gone quite as planned, but it'll be fine. It'll work. And you know, as you keep using these pegs, just like violin pegs, they kind of wear themselves in, and they'll go in a little bit deeper. So I deliberately leave the small, leave the holes small so that they only just fit in, so that over time they kind of work themselves in and, you know, find their final resting position, if you like. So that's what it looks like with all the pegs in. Yeah, as I said, I don't really have the taper here that I wanted, but I'm going to live with that. It'll be fine. It's fine as it is. I mean, you know, you're not using the tuning pegs all the time, so you know, so long as you can get your hand on them and turn them. Well, obviously this one's fine. Yeah, so you know, you can, and that's why they use these bigger pegs, because they're easier to turn. Much easier than like violin pegs, for example. Okay, so that's what it looks like. So I'm just going to remove those again. How are we doing for time? Okay. Right, so continue with the sanding. So that was 800. What have I got here? Some 2,500, 2,000, 1,000, and 1,500. Actually, I'll start with the 1,000. Just go up to it gradually. Yeah, sanding is not my favourite part of any job. I don't really enjoy it. It's a little bit boring, it makes my hands hurt, but the end result is always satisfying. You know, it's an essential part of working with wood, or with many materials, but you know, it makes a huge difference to how it looks at the end, how it feels. So yeah, it's essential. I just don't enjoy it. I don't like sanding. Some people find it very satisfying. I find it a ball ache. But you know, it needs to be done. And I've done a majority of it anyway off camera. All of, you know, starting from 400 grit. Actually, 120. I started with 120. What's happened there? Ah. It's okay, it came off, whatever it was. There's a white spot. So yeah, I mean, I started with quite coarse sandpaper to get all the rough corners and edges down. I might have even started with 80, then I went to 120, then 400. Now we're up to 1,000. Okay, that should be enough for that one. Give it another wipe. Okay, right, so 1,500. So this will be the final one I use. I could go up to 2,500, but I can't be bothered. And this will be 1,500 is very, very fine. So it will be just the job. Let me just turn that around. I can do that easier that way. Which one did I start with? Okay, just the back. Perfect. Okay, so just wipe off the dust. And there it is, all sanded. Looking good. Feels really nice and smooth. Right, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to put the AC on. I'm getting really hot. It is a bit noisy, but it has to be done. Right, so final stage before rebuild is boiled linseed oil. I'm going to have to use this dirty old cloth to put it on. I'm kind of running out of this stuff, but there it is. Okay, so like I said, I don't want to get too much oil in the tuning peg holes if I can help it. It's kind of unavoidable to a degree, but I'll try to keep it to a minimum. So look at the difference. Transforms it. Oh, I was going to glue the nut in first. Well, I've started now and I've gone over that bit, so I'll just be careful not to get any oil in the slot there. Getting ahead of myself a bit. I normally really smear this stuff on, but I'm going to be kind of conservative with it, so I don't want to make too much mess. Like I said, I definitely don't want to get it in those tuning peg holes, because we just completely lose friction. A little bit more for the other side. Okay, that's good. Let's rub it all in, all the way around. Right, so I want to try and get some inside the slot here as well, with what's left on the cloths, again, so I don't get too much in the tuning peg holes. A bit tricky, but doable. Yeah, actually that's fine. Okay, so that's the whole thing coated in oil now, and obviously where I've been sanding around this area, you know, I'd scuffed this a little bit, so there's some oil on there as well. So I'll just let that soak in for a few seconds while I put this away, and then I'll wipe off the excess with this cloth, and then I'll get a clean dry cloth and basically buff out the rest of it. So just wipe off the excess. That's looking good. Okay, so that's that finished. So I'll just go and get that other cloth just to buff the rest of it. Okay, nice clean soft cloth. And I didn't get any oil at all, well, tiniest little smear around the edges, but pretty much didn't get any oil in those tuning peg holes, which is excellent. I mean, it's a tiny bit, as I said, but not enough to worry about. Don't know if you can see that the tuning peg holes are still dry. So, yeah, it's turned out good. Right, okay, well that's the job finished, technically. So, what I want to do now is refit the nut. Let me just go and grab that. So it's in one of these little pots, because it's so small. I keep all the little bits. Ah, there it is. Keep all the little bits in these little tubs, so I don't lose them. So that is the nut. Really nothing to it, and I've got to make sure I get it in the right way round. And it's easy for me to tell which way round it goes. I don't know if you'll see that, but it's got beveled edges, so it kind of bevels down that way and that way, and that follows the contour of the headstock. So I know exactly which way to put it, and it's not fitting in at the moment, which is not surprising because of glue and veneer and everything else. I might need to get a bit of coarse sandpaper in there and just clean that out. Let's just try a bit of that, which is 100 grit, just to clean out the inside of that slot. Right, let's see how we're looking now. Still a tight fit. Seems like I've got a little bit of wood or glue on the inside edge there, so I'm just going to grab a chisel. No, I'm not going to get a chisel in there. There's not enough room. So I'll try one of my little scalpels, which should do the job. Let's go with this blade. I'm just going to scrape along the inside edge here, sort of this side of the slot. Just try and clean that up a bit. I'm not sure if it's glue or a bit of the veneer, probably a little bit of both actually. It's quite difficult to see because my eyes are not great. These glasses are not great either. That's definitely looking bevel ready. Right, where did the nut go? There it is. Let's try that now. It's still a tight fit. Wow. I wonder if I'll get away with that. Ah, yeah. Okay, so it needs a little pushing in, but even without glue, you can see that's in there. So that's good. I want it to be a decent tight fit, but I do still need to. Oh my god! get some glue in there. Do I? I can't get it out now. That must be a tight fit. I would rather get some glue in there, but oh, there we go. Just a tiny drop of super glue. Really don't need a lot. Literally, not even a drop really. More of a tiny smear. That seems to be blocked. Actually, I'll use that to smear it on. Because I just need a tiniest amount on here, not much at all. Actually, with super glue, less is more. It's not coming out. Okay, that'll be more than enough. So I'm going to use this little metal rod just to smear it on there. I do need a bit more. Can't work with that. Oh, that was way too much. Okay. Right, so I'm just going to use this metal rod just to smear a little bit of glue on the bottom and the front and back edge at the bottom. And that is more than enough. You won't be able to see it, but it's literally just a smear on there. Get it the right way around, first time please. And push it in. And across quickly before that glue sets. It's not working. That's got it. Right, just make sure that's kind of in the center. It needs to go across a tiny bit more. That's good. Make sure it's seated all the way down. There we go. Goes down one side and then up the other. Got to make sure that's properly seated. And I'm happy with that. So that's the nut back in. Nice and straight, seated all the way down. Perfect. It's good. Okay. Right, so that's the job finished. All that's left to do now is to put it back together. So that will be the next video. Part 6 will be reinstalling the tuning pegs and putting the whole thing back together, and that will be the end of the job. So yeah, it's been a bit of a ball ache, but all in all it's gone pretty well. So just a final look at the finished headstock with the laser engraving logo and the nut installed. That's it, job done. Okay, so now it's just time to put the instrument back together, and that will be in the next episode. In the meantime, please look after yourselves, look after each other. We will see you soon. Peace out.